Hey guys, PK Stefan from PK Digital here. We're going to do another tips and trick video. It's funny because I said I would never record PowerPoint tips and tricks, but in teaching presentation design, I find that people just have lots of questions about some of the basic stuff. So that's why I'm putting together some of these tips and tricks. I really love to talk about story and messaging, and we'll create some videos for that in the future. But for now, let's get some people some help here. And if there's one simple thing you can do to level up your slide design, I would say that one of the top things has to be just line spacing. It really helps increase the legibility of your content, and it's not terribly difficult to do. So let's look at that. What I often see, and this is kind of like a standard slide that you would see from a business presentation, is that people have a lot of content here. We know this is probably too much content. What they'll do then is they'll start hitting return to create some space between each one of those statements so that they're a little bit more legible. And you see what happens is pretty soon my content starts to drop off the page. There is a better way. So let's take a look at that, and that is line spacing. Now, right off the bat, I did reduce the amount of content here. I'm sorry, I just needed to. You may not be able to, but in this case, I'm able to, so I'm going to do it. If we were to just select this text box and go up into the ribbon, under the Home tab here, you'll see that there's a line spacing drop down here, and I can click just different line spacing. And just by switching this to 2.0, you can see we've greatly increased the legibility of each one of these lines. I'm going to go one step further though. So these defaults that you'll see here of 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3 are very useful. But if we want to level up and go to the next level, using the dialog box is the best way to do that. So we're going to choose line spacing options here. And we'll switch this from double to single. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add some spaces after each one of these lines. In this case, I'll guess, let's try 24 points. You can see we've got enough space here between these elements that we can actually read them much better. And if you've ever watched any of Apple's keynotes, you'll see that they don't use any bullet points. So we're going to actually get rid of these bullet points, set this to none. If we have enough white space in here, you can easily delineate each one of these elements, and you don't need the bullets. It gets rid of one extra element on the slide. We could also, you can see there's some space over here. Let's just see what this looks like if we were to increase this. So we could actually increase this, which is again going to level up our readability one level higher. And I could now go in here and highlight each one of these with my highlight color to then really further focus the eye on each one of these statements, as well as the bit of text after there that explains it. So pretty quick and simple. We've switched from something that was just a bit of a blob on the slide to something that we can now delineate and differentiate between those different elements there. So just to recap, switching to default 2.0 line spacing helped a lot. It really helped a lot. It broke out those bullets so that we can start to differentiate between the different elements. I went one step further, and instead of changing the line spacing, which was the default, it was at 1, I went in and I just added some space after the paragraph. And let's just look at that again. So we're going to go up to line spacing here. And all I did was add some spacing after. Okay, we didn't play with this. This was set to single. All we did was add to the after. And that allowed me to actually increase the font size and then create some focus on each one of these elements over here. If we got a paragraph text here, we could just do the very same thing as we did last time. We'll go in here, and this time I'm doing it through my toolbar here. And if you haven't seen my custom toolbar, that's another video that you can watch. Very handy to have this custom toolbar set up. And we'll set this, again, you play with it. Unfortunately, you don't get a preview. You just have to click OK to see what it looks like. That's not bad, right? So all we did here was, it seems a little bit different here. I have to see why that jumped on the screen. But all we did was we added 18, actually 24 points. Let's switch this to 24 points. So we added a bit more space, and that gave us enough space to really be able to differentiate between each one of these paragraphs. We did not change the line spacing, which was set at a default 1.0. If you have a headline like this, bringing those two lines together is going to create some more impact, and it's going to make them feel more cohesive. I would even go one step further. I'm going to see if we were to increase the size of this, it's a little bit closer to the font size of the text above it. And now I'm going to go in and we will just change the line spacing. In this case here, I'm going to switch it from line spacing 1.5, which is one of the defaults here. You've got single, 1.5, double, which are the defaults. If I want to switch it to something else, a fraction in this case, I'm going to switch to multiple. And now I can type in a number less than 1, less than a single line space. So I'm going to do 0.9. You could try 0.8, 0.7, all different numbers. Typically, I won't go down below 0.5, but you can, depending on the font face, that typeface and the font size, you might want to go down to as low as 0.5, but typically in the range of 0.7 to 0.9 is a good jump. And you'll see how that pulls these two together so that they feel like it's one statement now. So that made that easier, a little bit easier to read, and it feels more cohesive and has more impact. So in that case, all we did was we switched from 1.5 line spacing down to multiple of 0.9. So just to do that one more time, just so you see, we're either changing, there's really two boxes that we're changing the after space to create some space after each one of those. You only want to change before if there's a block quote or something like that, but typically you're just adjusting after. And then you're choosing a default of single, 1.5, or double here. Or if you're going down, or if you want to go to 1.3 or some other number other than 1, 1.5, or 2, you switch to multiple, and then you can adjust this to whatever you want. In this case, we did it to 0.9. So it's this dialog box right here or this dialog box here that we're changing. Okay. So let's play with this paragraph text here. If we just start off with what we already know works well, we're going to add some space after, and we'll add 18 points. And that's working pretty well. Let's just adjust that on the page now. That's working pretty well. I want to see if I can tighten up these paragraphs just a little bit. So first off, we add some space between those paragraphs. Now I'm going to go in and change the line spacing. Again, I want to change this down. I want to tighten a little bit. So I'm going to go to multiple, and I'm going to switch to 0.9. And I like that even better. I think that tightens up those paragraphs, and we've got a good amount of space between them. Leave a little bit more space at the bottom than I have at the top. And I think we've got a decent looking layout for this amount of content now. So in this example, just to recap, we did multiple 0.9 and after 18 points of space. You might say to me, I don't have time to do this on every single slide. And you're right, your template should be set up with the correct line spacing on all of your slides, so you don't have to adjust this all the time. Just in certain cases where you've got maybe a bit too much content and you need to rein it in just a little bit, or you've got a different kind of layout than the standard, you might want to play with the line spacing. But let me just show you a pro tip here. If you've got a bit of text, and you want to apply this style to this body of text, say this is on one slide, this is on another slide, you can simply select that body of text that's got the correct line spacing on it. Go up to the Format Painter, which is in the upper left-hand corner of your Home tab in the ribbon. Click on that box. That is now selected this style. And if I click on another box, it applies it automatically to that other box. So for example, let's just undo that. If you were on one slide and you wanted to then apply that line spacing to several slides, the quickest way to do that is not just that format painter, but to use this keyboard shortcut of Control Shift C or V. C is for copy, V is for paste. So I'm going to do Control Shift C with this box selected. Note I could select the text, but I'm going to select the box so I'm getting all of that. So I'm going to do Control Shift C, click over here and click the other box, and I'll do Control Shift V. And you can see I could go down a series of slides. I could move to the next slide and click on a text box and do Control Shift V. That will paste that style onto each one of those slides. But again, you do want your template to be set up correctly with the right line spacing. If you need help with that, then I can definitely give you a hand with that. So just to recap with line spacing, the defaults work well. Anytime you've got a text box selected and you go up here, you can choose those defaults. You do get greater control by going into the dialog box and typically adjusting the after to create space between those elements. And then if you want to tighten up between lines, switch this to multiple and go down to 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. You could even go down to 0.5. It depends on the typeface and the font size that you're using. But I typically am working in the range of 0.7 to 0.9 with multiple. And then adding space after, you can add in any number in here. I could add in 1 point if I wanted to. If that's all the space I had, it jumps in increments of 6. So you can easily change this. Sometimes I will change this down to 3, but you can then add some space to create some line between each one of those elements. So that really gives you some fine control on your line spacing. So yeah, if you have any questions, hit me up. Hopefully that provided you with some practical tips. Giving some space to your lines of content on your slide, to your paragraphs, makes a big difference. It's an easy thing to adjust once you know where the adjustment is. And again, it's in the Home tab. Click on the line spacing dialog box there, and from there you should be good. Okay. Hope you found this useful. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.